Hi there and welcome back to my channel. This is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer. This video is all about cozy mysteries, my favourite cozy mysteries I read in 2024, with one condition. In this video, I won't repeat authors. If I have more than one favourite book from the same author, I only tell you about one book, the favourite book I read from that author. I just want this video to celebrate cozy mysteries and not repeat authors in the mix. I think sometimes just getting the word out about cozy mystery authors is the best thing you can do. So let's start now with my favourite reads of cozy mysteries for 2024. The Marlow Murder Club by Robert Thorogood. So this is also one of my top 30 reads from 2024 and I have a video out already about that. But anyway, this book and this series overall is fantastic. This book especially is just brilliant in my view because of the three main characters, our three protagonists. They're so different in personality, in background, in how they act in the story, all the things they do, dialogue, body movement in the story, way they're described, what they wear, their background, their history, what they believe in. Everything is so different. And I like the way they come about being friends. They start off being more acquaintances in this story, and slowly building up to more friendship. I like that progression, it feels very natural, and they're just great characters. Judith is one of my favourite characters from Cozy Mysteries in 2024 overall, and maybe one of my favourite characters from Cozy Mysteries of all the books I've read in the Cozy Mystery genre, I don't know. But this character is quite brilliant. She's in her 70s, and I like the way that she just goes about doing things. Just the way she talks to people. She carries around a tin of travel sweets and offers the people at different times, and it's there to get them talking, maybe to distract characters as well from what they're saying, to focus their mind. Whatever it is, it's like a little quirk in her character that I think is quite brilliant. She drinks whiskey quite often, but she calls it thinking whiskey, or, coping whiskey, or something like that. She has a name for it every time she drinks it. And I just like those little quirks in her character. The other characters are also quite brilliant. The mystery is very strong. I like this book very much and the whole series overall. So definitely one of my favourite reads in 2024 for Cozy Mysteries. Stranger in the Library, written by Eva Gates. So it's book 11 in the Lighthouse Library mystery series. I have to say that any time a book is released from this series in a year, most likely it will find its way on my top Cozy Mystery reads for the year. I've enjoyed this series immensely from the first book. And yes, my favourite character in this whole series, Louise Jane, has quite a big role in this book. But there are two mysteries in this story, and it's a secondary mystery I like the most. It involves an art theft, and it gave this story more like a treasure hunt feel. And I do like treasure hunt type things in stories. Whatever genre it is, I like treasure hunts. And also in this art theft storyline going on, it brings a protagonist and Louise Jane closer together because they're investigating it together and they even get stuck together in certain situations. And it just makes the interactions, I think, a bit deeper. And I like all that in the story, what it brings about. And I think the author took another risk in this book. We have a support character who pops up, I think, only in this story. But I do hope this character appears in other stories as well. But this character is a local artist, and he's quite dreadful as an artist, we're told. But he thinks he's brilliant, and he thinks that he should be adored by millions everywhere. And he's quite loud, he's quite brash. It's a very over-the-top character in this series. So I think quite a risk. But the risk paid off because I found this character brilliant. A lot to like in this book. I mean, the whole series is good overall. If you've not read this series, go and read it. I'm lucky that I've been able to read all the books in this series so far. Most from the library, some ARC reads, but I just think this series is brilliant overall. A Death in Diamonds, written by SJ Bennett. So it's book 4 in the Her Majesty the Queen Investigates series. What I enjoy about this book in the series is it goes back in time, so it's historical, and it's when Queen Elizabeth II is in her 30s. I enjoyed the time period setting, and I enjoyed seeing the Queen in that younger kind of time frame as well. I also enjoyed support characters in this book. We have Prince Philip, we have Princess Margaret making big impacts in this story. I enjoyed how they're portrayed. A lot of things in this book with characters feel tongue-in-cheek in a way, but you get kind of a true sense of who those people could be behind the scenes. especially the Queen. I mean, the Queen in this book is portrayed as a person, not a figurehead, not this person in the public eye, always doing the right thing, saying the right thing. She's a person in these books. She cares for people. She cares for the people who work for her, her staff. She cares for her family. She really cares for people. That's the big thing in this series you get, and in this book, is how much the Queen cares for people very much. So I like the way that's portrayed in the story. It makes the Queen feel like a person, not just a royal figure, a royal person on your screen or on the stage somewhere in the world stage, but a real person having a real life. I like the mysteries in this book. There's two mysteries. I like one more than the other because one of the mysteries is more personal to the Queen, so it feels more compelling because of that. But this book I think is special because of that historic setting. And also just having the Queen younger in this story, the way it all plays out with how she's trying to investigate, with the help of somebody, the mystery is going on. So I do like this book. I like the series overall, but this book I think is quite special. The Death in the Vineyard, written by Emylia Hall, so book 4 in the Shell House Detective series. This book just brought the series back to the top for me. Books 2 and 3 weren't that good in the series. They were still strong mysteries. They were still good books. But just a point of view from our protagonist, there are two protagonists in this series, and the point of view of them in the investigation wasn't the biggest point of view in books 2 and 3. It felt like they were being pushed to the background for some reason. But in this book, they're brought back. We get their point of view in the investigation of the mystery as the strongest, not other characters. Also, this book had a gothic feel, a darker feel, and we haven't had that in this series. We haven't had this darker type mystery in this series so far. That was special as well in this book. Also, I like the series overall and in this book as well about the friendships between characters because they're not instant. In many books, I think, friendships with characters are too quick. They're too instant. But in this series, they're not. They gradually get to know characters, know each other. They gradually form those bonds. They have issues as well that could pull them apart, but you see that in the story. And I like the friendships, the interactions between certain characters in this book especially. And also the mystery in this book is so complex. We have many subplots going on in this book, and they all relate to the overall mystery, but they're all different subplots that have to be written very well, very intricate the way it's all put together, and it shows great plotting and planning for the overall story. And if one of those subplots failed, I think the whole book would have failed. So I think there would have been a lot of pressure on the author to just concentrate closely to each subplot to make sure that clues and hints aren't given too early, to make sure that everything makes sense, to make sure everything's tied up neatly at the end in a way that's believable and not forced. So a great book in interesting series, and I do like this whole series overall. And I think go back from book 1 and read it if you're interested, because you need to understand how character relationships form from the first book. The Body in the Bookcase, written by Ellie Alexander, is book 1 in a secret bookcase mystery series. And the reason it's called that is because the main setting, or one of the settings in this series, is a bookshop called A Secret Bookcase. It's a bookshop that sells mystery books, and a protagonist works there. And I like that bookshop setting. I like when this series focuses on that setting as a home base, if you will, for the overall mystery or story. And this book, the first book, does very much. A clever mystery with great characters. Our protagonist has a secret weapon at her disposal in this series. We learn very early on that she has a qualification in criminology, and it helps her investigate crimes. A different way of going about thinking about things, because in cozy mysteries, a lot of our protagonists don't have that background. They're just everyday people. But this protagonist has more qualifications in investigating crimes in the first place, so that's interesting. And it adds different concepts, different ideas in this book and the series overall. And this being the first book, I think there are 4 books so far. I've read them all, but this book was quite special as well. I like the support characters. There's many of them, but they're just so well written and so well done. It's set in a small town. I do love small town mysteries, and the small town feel, the way it's described, the impression you get of it from different characters is brilliant in my view. I just love this small town setting so much. I also love the bookshop setting as well. I just adore that bookshop. I'd love to work there. I'd love to go there and visit that bookshop. I mean, it's a great setting, I think, for mysteries, and just adds little things here and there. It just gives a kind of different tone and feel to the story overall, I think. So in my view, a great mystery. If you want to read it, start from this book in the series and read all the way through. I think it is available from Kindle Unlimited from memory, so if you have access to that, then you can read this series. The Tea Ladies, written by Amanda Hampson. So it's the first book in the Tea Ladies series, and it's set in Sydney, Australia in the 1960s. And all the four major characters, there are four main characters, they're all tea ladies, that's their profession. And it was a profession. So their job is to serve tea, coffee and biscuits to workers in companies, like in factories or wherever. They serve tea, coffee and biscuits twice a day, I think it is, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And one of the things they also did, other than serve tea, coffee and biscuits, was get to know the workers, get to know their lives, their likes, dislikes, their family, all that sort of thing, and just talk to people. They're an important part of life in companies at that stage. This book really cements you in the time period, and I like the descriptions and I like the way the characters fit those descriptions very much. And the four main characters, they're all brilliant in my view, all of them. They're different points of view, different way of seeing the world, different dialogue, different body language. They're all different. But I like, for the cozy elements of this story, I like that they're always there to support each other. They help each other. And even though they have differences between each other sometimes in the story, you just know they're always there for each other. You get that feeling, that impression in the story. And the subplots for these characters really give you more understanding of who they are, how they think, what makes them tick, all that sort of thing. So I think this book is brilliant for characters and subplots. It's a good enough mystery, but not brilliant mystery. But the characters and those subplots really make this book come alive. The Body on the Beach, written by Simon Brett. So it's book one in the Feathering series, which is a long-running series. And I think even more books are coming out in this series even now. But anyway, what I like about this is the small town setting. It's a seaside small town setting. I do like small town mysteries. I also like our two protagonists. I like them because they're so different, vastly different. One of them is more straight-laced, thinks there's rules for everything and wants to follow those rules, and does things that she may not even like to follow rules just to get along in society. The other one is just like a free spirit, more carefree, even bohemian, and they end up living next to each other. It's an interesting mix, I think, for characters, but it works so well. And because they're so varied and so different, having those different viewpoints, the different way of doing things when they're trying to solve a mystery, was fascinating for me in the story and very engaging and entertaining. So I got a great impression from this first book, from the small town setting, from the two characters, and the interactions, I think, especially at the start, when they're just trying to find out about each other, when they both learn that the other person is so different. Those interactions are almost comical in the story, but in a good way. And they slowly, I think, start to impress upon each other different ways of doing things, not to a great degree in this book. I've only read the first book so far in this series, but I do wonder, in further books in this series, do we see slight changes in those characters? I don't know. I'm hoping so. I think it'd be interesting to find out, and I'm looking forward to reading more on this series very much. Foul Play at the Seaview Hotel, written by Glenda Young. So book 3 in the Helen Dexter mystery series. What I like about this series is our three main characters, so Helen Dexter and two people who work for her and with her in her hotel. Those three characters make this series. They're great cozy characters. They're kind of everything in the cozy side in these stories, or almost everything, centers around these characters. And if these characters weren't written as they were, I think these books wouldn't work, because these books, this whole series, the mysteries, while they're interesting and while sometimes they are strongish, they're not massively strong mysteries in this series. The characters really shine through more than the mysteries. And I think for a cozy mystery series, these books focus more on the cozy side than the mystery side. This book especially is engaging on that side, on the cozy side, because there's a bit of a rift between two characters in this book, between Helen and her cook. And that rift could damage everything in this series overall. So it's so compelling and engaging because by the third book, these characters almost feel like old friends or family. They really do. And to see that rift between them, I mean, it drags you into the story because you want everything to be okay. So the cozy elements in this book are so strong. The mystery is interesting, it is entertaining, but it's the cozy things in this series that keep me going with this series, keep me reading more and more. And I'm looking forward to finding out what happens in the next book, because in the next book we get a hint of the type of guest that will come to form that mystery. So I'm interested to see how that all pans out in the story. The Christmas Eve Murders, written by Noelle Albright. So it's a cozy mystery set on Christmas Eve, of course, from the title. And I like this book very much. It has a festive feel for the first part of the story. Then it shifts suddenly, and it shifts when a murder occurs. A protagonist breakdowns in the snow on the way to see her parents, and she finds herself stranded at a pub during a blizzard, a heavy snowstorm. And she's cut off. The phones go out, she can't contact anybody, she has to wait for somebody to come and repair her car, maybe the next day, day after. She's not sure yet. But she's stuck in this pub. But she finds out to have a scavenger hunt at this pub during Christmas Eve. So the first part of this story is all about that. This person, our protagonist, meeting people for the first time and getting to know them. And we get a deep dive into those characters. And I'm happy for that because when it shifts, when it stops being festive and merry and bright, and a murder happens, and everyone's plunged into darkness, and it's fast paced, and people are scared about everybody else in the pub. You know, who is the murderer in the pub? Is somebody in the pub a murderer, or is it somebody outside? They don't know. When all that happens, that big shift, we already know what the characters are like. We've known about that from the start of the story. That was well done in that structure. The mystery is interesting. The characters are interesting. But the biggest thing about this book I don't like, and probably maybe the only thing I don't like, is too much dialogue. There's too much dialogue in this story, especially in that kind of faster paced part of the story when they're investigating things, trying to solve this murder. The too much dialogue distracts from that murder, and I know other readers out there enjoy a lot of dialogue. I enjoy dialogue as well, but this was just too much at the wrong time. So if that had changed, this book would have been brilliant. It still is a good read, an amazing read, but it's not a 5-star read, and mainly because of too much dialogue in the moments where it was kind of dragging me out of that atmosphere of trying to solve the mystery in the dark. Dead on Target, written by MC Beaton and R.W. Green. So it's book 34 in Agatha Raisin series. Very long-running series, and R.W. Green writes the books now, based on the characters and the ideas from MC Beaton, who sadly departed us a few years ago. And you'd think that after 30-odd books in a series, there'd be no more growth for a character, but there is. There's growth for Agatha Raisin in this book. That was surprising. And good growth, I think. It kind of shifts Agatha into a different point of view, which I think is a long time coming. So I'm wondering what that means for future books in this series. This book has a level of danger I'm not seeing in the series so far, and a lot of things going on in this story. We have drama with Agatha's neighbour James. We have Roy being badly beaten. We have an incident with a bow and arrow. We have many suspects, and many of them who are dubious, who tell lies. Many red herrings going on in this story. So structurally, it is an interesting book, interesting mystery. And with that danger going on, with the dangerous elements increasing in the story, it makes it a bit darker. Not too dark, because I think in this series, it can't be too dark, because with some of the events going on, they kind of strip away any darkness that's trying to build up, because many events in this series overall are larger than life. They're very vibrant and bright because of it. And Agatha Raisin as a character is very over the top as a character in many cases, many scenes. So you can't really have too much darkness, too much seriousness in a series like this when things like that are going on right through the series. That's what makes this series Agatha Raisin. Agatha Raisin as a character, I think, is quite brilliant. She's very complex. People read her and may think, well, she's not complex at all, but I think she is. I think she's written in a way that brings about different sides to her at different times. And some of those sides may be over the top and obnoxious and, acerbic. And some of those sides may be gentle and caring. but she's a blend of many things, and she's so self-aware as a character. She's very self-aware of all her flaws. Doesn't mean she cares about these flaws at different times. Sometimes she embraces them and loves them, but she's very self-aware of them. So a series like this with a character like that, I think, is a great series, and this book was very entertaining for me to read. So there you have my favourite cozy mystery reads for 2024. Have you read any of these books? Do you want to read them? For the ones you did read, what did you think? Let me know in the comments. And also, let me know your favourite cozy mystery reads for 2024. On my channel, I review many cozy mysteries. If you enjoy cozy mysteries, check out my channel and subscribe. On the screen now is a link to another video for a book I'm sure you'll enjoy.